Hello and welcome to the DDT therapy tutorial for the baseline settings for a DDT therapy. So to start off, we want to log into the Guidance Technology website and go to the therapy tab up here. It'll take us to the students or the page to create a therapy, and we're going to create a therapy for our test student today. Go to add new DDT, and it'll take us to this window. And then today we're going to do a therapy for expressive language. It's fairly simple. So we're going to pick these three targets to test on. And then the first setting that I want to talk about that relates to the baseline is this setting right here, is capital B. If you click on it, and then that means that there no longer will be a baseline trial set for doing trials on each of these targets. But obviously, because we're working with the baseline, we want to keep these on. And when the B is bolded, that means it's on. So to find baseline settings, we go into the criteria tab, and then if you click baseline right here, it should default on baseline. But if you click baseline right here, we'll find the main settings for baseline. And the first settings we're going to talk about are these two settings right here, the minimum trials to calculate the goal percentage, and also like the goal percent. So the minimum trials to calculate goal percentage is basically the number of trials, up to like the number of trials like up to 10 that will occur to determine whether or not the baseline was a success. So if we set it to 5, or if we set it to, let's say we set it, or goal percentage to 50%. So we would only need to pass 50% of the trials in the baseline trial set to succeed the baseline. And let's say we do 8 minimum trials to calculate goal percentage. That means we'd have to get 4 out of these 8 trials for the baseline to succeed. And now we're going to go over to the Gains app to see how this looks. So here we are in the Gains app. Just after logging in, it should bring us to this screen. Student screen, we click on Test Student. That should have our DDT therapy underneath, and here it is, the one that we set up. Now going into it, first it's going to take us to the baseline trial. So here, set up baseline, click yes. And now that we set the minimum trials, to calculate the goal percentage at 8 and the goal percentage to be 50%, that means we're going to do at least, or at most, 8 trials to see if we pass the baseline. So let's say we get the first 3 correct. Okay, so here we've done up here the 3 trials, and we've gotten 3 out of the 8 that we're going to do correct. So that's gets us to 38%. So now let's say we get the next 3 wrong, or 4 wrong. So if we get 1 more wrong, then the baseline is actually going to fail because we would have done 8 trials and not gotten the 50%. Since I want to show you how it works, we're going to get this one correct, and it should be baseline success. And that's how that works. So next we're going to talk about the baseline giving setting. And for this setting, the default is only once, which means that the baseline is giving only once before each trial set. But it could also be switched to until mastered, which means the baseline is basically given every time until that trial set is mastered. And then we can go into the Gains app to see how that looks. So here we are in the Gains app. We're going to go back into our test student therapies. It should bring up this therapy that we set up, and what we want to look at is to see if the baseline is going to be keep showing up until the trial set is mastered. So let's say we set up the baseline, and then we fail the baseline, which means we get these 5 wrong out of the 8 to fail it, and then we can just go through the trial set. Okay, and since we failed the trial set, we keep going. And here we have the baseline set up again. So because we've added that until master setting, that means the baseline is going to keep showing up until this trial set is mastered. So for the last setting we're going to talk about is this onCorrect setting right here. So the 2 options for onCorrect is whether you want to reinforce the baseline onCorrect or you do not. I think default is do not, meaning there's no reinforcing after. But now let's switch it to reinforce, and we can see what that does in the gains at. So here we are in the gains at, and let's start the therapy for the test student. So as we go in, we set up the baseline. And let's get the first trial correct. We can see the reinforce. Now since we, for the option on correct, we decided to reinforce on correct. Now every time we get a trial correct, and baseline is going to tell us to reinforce it. And even after we complete it, it says to reinforce. And that's the difference between, the on correct option.